1453. On the soaring walls of Constantinople, a final emperor stands against massive Ottoman cannons and blinding smoke. He is defending a city that has outlived entire civilizations, but is finally running out of time. Ask almost anyone when Rome fell, and they will tell you 476. But they are wrong. Rome did not die just once. It fell twice. First in the west with a quiet whisper, and then in the east, almost 1,000 years later, with a deafening roar. This is the story of that forgotten 1,000 years. In 476, Western Rome collapsed with barely a sound. No epic last stand, just a teenage emperor, a short letter, and a quiet dismissal. History textbooks usually close the chapter right there, declaring the end of Rome. But in the East, the lights never went out. It was the exact same empire, holding the exact same legal claim, just ruling from a grand new capital, Constantinople. So, if Rome supposedly fell, why did people calling themselves Romans keep ruling for another 10 centuries? Here's the detail. It changes how you see history forever. The people living in Constantinople never called themselves Byzantines. That label was invented centuries later by historians. If you walked those streets back then and asked anyone who they were, they would give you the exact same answer they had given for 1,000 years. We are Romans. Their leader was a Roman emperor. Their system was built on Roman law. Their faith carried the weight of Roman authority into a new era. Rome did not vanish into thin air. It simply refused to step into the grave. To understand how they survived, you have to look at a map. Constantinople was a fortress crafted by geography itself. Crashing seas protected 2 of its sides, while massive triple-layered stone walls blocked the 3rd. Taking this city didn't just require a massive army, it demanded a miracle. And for nearly 1,000 years, every invading empire that marched up to those walls found out the hard way. That miracle was not coming. It was not just luck. It was masterclass engineering. Walls can stop an invading army, but only gold can feed the soldiers standing on top of them. Constantinople sat directly at the crossroads of world trade, bridging Europe and Asia. Every ship that passed, every merchant that traded, paid a toll to the empire. So while Western Europe broke apart into chaotic, impoverished kingdoms, the East maintained a massive imperial treasury. And in the game of empires, money buys mercenaries, money buys political loyalty, and most importantly, money buys time. Empires rarely fall from sword strikes alone. They collapse when the money runs out. The East had cash, so it kept its future alive. Then came Emperor Justinian, driven by a dangerous ambition to reconquer everything Rome had lost. He marched into North Africa, retook Italy, and reclaimed pieces of Spain. For a brief moment, the classic map of the Roman Empire flickered back to life. But then, the bill arrived. Decades of endless warfare emptied the treasury right as a devastating plague wiped out millions. Ambition nearly destroyed what raw survival had built. The East learned a brutal lesson. You can either waste your strength chasing the ghost of your past, or focus on protecting what you still have. They chose to survive. After Justinian, the empire changed its entire strategy. The age of grand conquest was over. The new goal was simple survival. Year after year, enemy forces pushed against their borders and the empire kept shrinking. But being smaller did not mean they were broken. They adapted. They mastered diplomacy, bought off enemies, and retreated when necessary. And when everything else fell away, they fell back on the very heart of the empire, the city itself. Most empires crumble in a single catastrophic collapse. This one mastered the art of shrinking without vanishing. Then came 1204, bringing the strike that would finally cripple them. It did not come from a foreign invader or a pagan army. It came from fellow Christians. The Fourth Crusade turned its weapons on Constantinople, breaching the walls and tearing the city apart from the inside. Palaces were looted, ancient churches were stripped bare, and the empire was shattered into fragmented pieces. Although they eventually reclaimed their capital decades later, the empire's wealth, trust, and momentum were gone forever. If 476 was a quiet end in the west, 1204 was a mortal wound in the east. From that night on, the empire was living on borrowed time. Which brings us back to 1453. Massive gunpowder cannons line up outside the gates. The ancient stone walls that had protected Roman civilization for over 1,000 years finally crumble. Under the bombardment, the last emperor falls in battle alongside his soldiers, and with him the very last political flame of Rome flickers out. Not in Italy, and not in 476, but in Constantinople, nearly a millennium later. That is the secret history hides in plain sight. Rome did not just fall, it had two deaths. A quiet fade in the west, and a dramatic final stand in the east. So, what allowed the Eastern Empire to endure for 1,000 extra years? It was not a single stroke of luck. It was 3 core pillars, a city designed to be an unbreakable fortress, gold that constantly bought them time, and a cultural identity that steadfastly refused to stop being Roman. Rome fell, but it also endured, right up until the moment it couldn't anymore. If you enjoyed uncovering this side of history, hit that subscribe button for Anno Ruina. History never truly ends where the textbooks say it does. Next time, we will look at the powerful force that rose from the ashes of Rome's final fall. We are just getting started.